Well, hello, friends. This is Pastor Russ, and we're here again for another time of Monday mini Bible study. And we're studying the book of Genesis, and right now we are up to chapter 14. If you remember last week in chapter 13, Abram and his nephew Lot were traveling from Egypt, from the south, up to the north, up to the land of Canaan. And it was just too much, too many men, too many animals, for both Lot and Abram, and so Abram gave Lot the choice, said, you choose. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left. If you go up in this direction, I'll go in the other direction. We can't have this quarreling among us. So Lot chose to go to where the cities were, where he thought that, he'd be more prosperous, and that meant that Abram would be in the country. So that's where we are at this point, where they have separated. And at this point now, Lot gets in trouble, not for anything that he's done. You might say it's for choices that he made, but not really. And so Abram has to come and rescue him. So starting with verse 1 of chapter 14. At this time, Amphirel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Ellasar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Golim, went to war against Bera, king of Sodom, Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinar, king of Admah, Shember, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar. All of these latter kings joined forces in the valley of Siddim, which is the Salt Sea. For 12 years they had been subject to Chedorlaomer, but in the 13th year they rebelled. In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the kings allied with him went out and defeated the Rephites in Ashtaroth, Carnium, and the Zuzites in Ham, the Emites in Shaveh Kirathaim, and the Horites in the hill country of Seir, as far as El Paran near the desert. Then they turned back and went to En Mishpat, that is Kadesh, and they conquered the whole country, or the whole territory of the Amalekites, as well as the Amorites who were living in the Hazon Tamar. Now, all of these names and all of these things that they did are only important insofar as they set the setting, the time, the place where all of this took place. And at the time that this was written, these places would have been familiar to the people that were reading it. Of course, they're not familiar to us because we're not living in that place or in that time. Continuing now with verse 8. Then the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, the king of Bela, that is Zoar, marched out and drew up their battle lines in the valley of Siddim against Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, Tidal, king of Goim, Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Ellasar, 4 kings against 5. Now the valley of Siddim was full of tar pits, and when the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some of the men fell into them, and the rest fled to the hills. The 4 kings seized all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all of their food, and then they went away. They also carried off Abram's nephew Lot and his possessions, since he was living in Sodom. And so that's what's important here in verse 12, is that in the midst of this war that was going on between all of these kings for their possessions, for land and so on, Lot got caught up in that just because he was living near the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. And so they took him, they captured him and all of his family, they captured all of his servants, all of his animals, and all of his possessions, which was quite a lot. Continuing on in verse 13. One who had escaped came and reported this to Abram the Hebrew. Now Abram was living near the great trees of Mamre the Amorite, a brother of Eshcol and Aner, of whom were allied with Abram. When Abram heard that his relative had been taken captive, he called out the 318 trained men born in his household and went in pursuit as far as Dan. During the night, Abram divided his men to attack them, and he routed them, pursuing them as far as Hobah, north of Damascus. He recovered all the goods and brought back his relative Lot and his possessions, together with the women and the other people. So he went in, defeated those that had captured Lot. And then he brought Lot back out with all of his people, all of his possessions. Verse 17. After Abram returned from defeating Kedorlaomer and the kings allied with him, the king of Sodom came out to meet him in the valley of Shavah, that is the king's valley. Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was priest of God Most High, and he blessed Abram, saying, Blessed be Abram by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who delivered your enemies into your hand. Then Abram gave him a tenth of everything. Now, we're really not quite certain. Biblical scholars don't know this Melchizedek, king of Salem. It looks kind of like he's offering communion here, doesn't it? Bread and wine, and he's talking about the God Most High. Some have postulated that this is actually another incarnation of God in human flesh, maybe another form of the pre-carnate Messiah. Others say that he was worshiping another God, not the God that Abram is worshiping. And others say that he is a representative. It says he's a priest of the God Most High. And then we see here this tenth of everything. And we're going to be looking later on when we look at other books of the Bible about the tithe or the tenth, giving the first fruits. Continuing now on with verse 21. The king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the people and keep the goods for yourself. In other words, I want the people, but you can keep all of the loot that we got back. Not only what belonged to Lot, but all the rest of it as well. You can have it. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have raised my hand to the Lord, God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and I have taken an oath that I will accept nothing belonging to you, not even a thread or the thong of a sandal, so that you will never be able to say, I made Abram rich. I will accept nothing but what my men have eaten, and the share that belongs to the men who went with me, to Aner, to Eshcol, and Mamre. Let them have their share. So we see here at the end of chapter 13 that Abram shows his character. He's not in this for himself. He made an oath to God, the God Most High. And now it's real exciting. Next week we're going to be seeing another covenant, the Abrahamic covenant that God makes with Abram, and how he changes his name even as part of this. And so we'll be looking at that next week. So until between now and then, I hope you have a blessed week. And this is Pastor Russ saying so long.